Lieutenant Sarah Chen had dreamed of serving her country since she was 12 years old, watching her father polish his Army medals at their kitchen table in Sacramento. Now, at 28, she stood in the blazing Afghan sun at Forward Operating Base Crimson, the newest member of a SEAL combat medical team. She'd earned top marks at Fort Sam Houston's Special Operations Combat Medic course, but none of that seemed to matter to Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hawk Hawkins. "Listen up, people," Hawk announced to the assembled team in the operations tent, his voice carrying the weight of 15 years in the teams. "We've got a new medic joining us, fresh out of training." He gestured towards Sarah without looking at her directly. "I know what you're thinking, and yes, she's exactly what she looks like, green as grass and probably can't carry her own weight." Sarah felt heat rising to her cheeks, but she kept her expression neutral. She'd dealt with doubters before. Her medical bag sat at her feet, meticulously packed according to SEAL protocols she'd studied for months. The other team members shifted uncomfortably. Petty Officer Jake Martinez, the team's communications specialist, offered Sarah a sympathetic glance, but Hawk continued, his weathered face showing nothing but skepticism. "In my experience, medics who look like they belong in a hospital rather than a firefight don't last long out here," Hawk said, finally making eye contact with Sarah. "No offense, Doc, but you've got something to prove. Until you do, you stay in my shadow and you don't make a move without my say-so. Clear?" "Crystal clear, Chief," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath her calm exterior. The briefing continued. Intelligence suggested that a high-value target, a Taliban commander responsible for multiple attacks on coalition forces, was hiding in a village 12 miles northeast of their position. The mission was simple on paper: infiltrate, gather intel, and call in air support if they got confirmation. Hawk emphasized that this was a reconnaissance mission only. "We go in quiet, we stay quiet, and we get out quiet," he said. "No heroics, no cowboys, and no rookie mistakes." His eyes landed on Sarah again. That night, as Sarah lay in her bunk reviewing medical procedures in her head, Martinez approached her. "Don't take it personal," he said quietly. "Hawk's hard on everyone at first. Lost his best friend to an IED 3 years ago. The medic couldn't save him. He's been different ever since." Sarah nodded, appreciating the context but not the excuse. "I understand grief, Martinez, but I didn't come here to be treated like a liability. I came here to save lives." "Then you'll get your chance to show him," Martinez said. "Just be patient." The team rolled out at 400 hours in 2 armored vehicles. Sarah rode with Hawk, Martinez, and 2 other SEALs, Danny Frost, Kowalski, and Ryan Preacher, Williams. The pre-dawn darkness provided cover, but the roads were treacherous, lined with potential IED placements. Hawk drove with practiced precision, his eyes scanning constantly. Sarah noticed everything he did, how he read the terrain, how he communicated with the other vehicle through hand signals when radio silence was necessary. Whatever his opinion of her, the man was a professional. They ditched the vehicles 2 miles from the target village and proceeded on foot. The sun was just beginning to paint the horizon orange when they reached their observation point, a bombed-out compound overlooking the village. Hawk set up the team in defensive positions. "Doc, you're with me in the center. Martinez, get comms up. Frost and Preacher take the perimeter." Sarah settled into position, her rifle ready, her medical bag within arm's reach. Through binoculars, she studied the village below. Mud brick houses clustered together, narrow alleyways between them. A few goats wandered freely. No obvious signs of the target. Hours passed. The heat became oppressive. Sarah sipped water sparingly, aware of their limited supply. She caught Hawk watching her a few times, probably waiting for her to complain or show weakness. She gave him nothing. Then, at 1300 hours, everything changed. Martinez's voice came through the radio, barely a whisper. "Chief, we've got movement. Multiple armed hostiles north side of the village. They're setting up what looks like a mortar position. Hawk moved to get a better view. Sarah watched his expression darken. Sarah peered through her scope at the scene unfolding below. At least 15 armed men were assembling what appeared to be a Soviet-era mortar system. More concerning were the crates they were unloading from a truck, ammunition, from the look of it, enough to sustain a serious attack. Hawk was already on the radio to base. Crimson Main, this is Viper 6. We have eyes on approximately 15 military-age males with heavy weapons at grid November Delta 4723. Appears to be mortar crew setting up firing position. How copy? The response crackled back. Viper 6, solid copy. Maintain observation. Air support is 40 minutes out. Do not engage unless compromised. 40 minutes. Sarah did the mental calculation. If that mortar crew got operational, they could hit the base, or worse, the nearby village where coalition medical teams were running a clinic. She'd heard about it during briefing, doctors and nurses treating local children. "Chief," Frost's voice came through the team radio, urgent but controlled. "We've got a problem. 2 locals look like shepherds heading up the hill toward our position. If they spot us and run back to the village." Hawk swore under his breath. "Everyone stay still. Maybe they'll pass by." Sarah watched through a crack in the wall as 2 elderly Afghan men climbed the rocky path, leading a small flock of goats. They were talking to each other, oblivious to the SEAL team hidden in the ruins above them. Then one of the goats broke away, wandering directly toward their position. "Don't move," Hawk whispered into the radio. "Nobody moves." But the goat was persistent, drawn perhaps by the sparse vegetation growing in the ruins. It came closer, bleating. One of the shepherds called to it and started walking their direction. Sarah's heart pounded. The shepherd was 20 feet away now, 15. His eyes swept the ruins, not searching but not completely unaware either. People who lived in war zones developed instincts for danger. 10 feet. The shepherd stopped. He'd seen something, maybe a reflection off someone's scope, maybe just an odd shadow. His eyes narrowed. Hawk made a split-second decision. He stepped out from cover, hands raised in a peaceful gesture, speaking in Pashto. "Salam, we mean no harm. We are here for the men with weapons, not for you." The shepherd's eyes went wide. He looked from Hawk to the village below, understanding dawning on his face. For a moment, Sarah thought he might stay quiet. Then he turned and ran, shouting in Pashto. "Compromised," Hawk barked. "Weapons ready, Martinez, call it in. We need that air support now." The village below erupted into motion. The armed men abandoned their mortar setup and grabbed their rifles, pointing up toward the ruins. Sarah could see them organizing, preparing to assault the hill. "We need to move," Preacher said, his voice tight. "That's too many for a firefight." But Hawk was studying the terrain. "No, we move now, they'll cut us down in the open. We hold this position. These walls are solid. We can defend this until air support arrives." 38 minutes, Martinez reported, his voice strained. "They're scrambling the birds now." Sarah checked her ammunition, 6 magazines, 30 rounds each. She looked at the team. 5 people against 15, possibly more. The math wasn't good, but Hawk was right. Running would get them killed faster. The first shots rang out, bullets pinging off the stone walls. The Taliban fighters were testing their position, trying to figure out where exactly the Americans were hiding. "Return fire, controlled bursts," Hawk ordered. "Let them know we're armed and ready. Maybe they'll think twice." The SEALs opened up, their shots precise and measured. Sarah saw 2 of the attackers go down. The others scattered, taking cover behind walls and vehicles in the village. "They're flanking," Frost called out. "East side, 3 combatants moving up the ravine." "Doc, you're on the east wall," Hawk commanded. "Keep them pinned down." Sarah moved to position, her training taking over. She spotted movement in the ravine and fired, her rounds sparking off rocks. The attackers ducked back, but she knew they'd try again. Minutes ticked by. The firefight settled into a rhythm, bursts of enemy fire, calculated responses from the SEAL team. Sarah's world narrowed to her sector, her breathing, her trigger pulls. Then she heard Preacher grunt in pain. "Man down," Frost shouted. "Preacher's hit." Sarah's medical training overrode everything else. She low-crawled across the compound to where Preacher had fallen, blood spreading across his shoulder. "Stay still," she commanded, already pulling out her trauma kit. A bullet had caught him in the upper chest, just below the collarbone. She could see the entry wound but not an exit. Hawk appeared beside her, providing cover fire. "How bad?" "Missed the major vessels, but the bullet's still in there," Sarah said, her hands working automatically. She packed the wound, applied pressure. "He needs evacuation, but he'll live if we can stop the bleeding." Another volley of fire forced them all down. Sarah threw herself over Preacher's body, protecting him while finishing the bandage work. The compound shook with the impact of an RPG round hitting the outer wall. Dust and debris rained down on them. Sarah finished securing Preacher's bandage and helped him into a more protected position. "Doc, get back to your sector," Hawk ordered, his rifle barking steadily as he laid down covering fire. Sarah grabbed her weapon and returned to the east wall. The attackers in the ravine had used the RPG distraction to advance. They were closer now, maybe 30 yards away. She fired controlled bursts just like she'd trained. One attacker fell, another retreated, but more kept coming. "Martinez, how long on that air support?" Hawk's voice was steady, but Sarah could hear the edge of concern. 22 minutes, Chief. They're flying full throttle, but—" "We don't have 22 minutes, Frost interrupted. "They're bringing up more weapons. I count at least 25 hostiles now, maybe more." Sarah risked a glance at Hawk. His jaw was set, his eyes calculating. She knew what he was thinking. They were outnumbered, pinned down, and running low on ammunition. Preacher was wounded. The odds were getting worse by the minute. "Listen up," Hawk said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We hold this position. We don't give an inch. Every minute we keep them focused on us is a minute they're not setting up that mortar to hit our people. We signed up for this. We do our job." Something in his words steadied Sarah. He was right. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about the mission, about the people counting on them. She went back to firing, making every shot count. The Taliban fighters tried rushing the compound twice in the next 10 minutes. Both times, the SEAL team drove them back with concentrated fire. But Sarah could see the problem developing. The attackers were getting smarter, more coordinated. They were using suppressing fire to cover their movements, working their way closer to the compound walls. "They're going to try to breach," Hawk said almost to himself. Then louder, "Everyone switch to close quarters spacing. Doc, leave your sector and backstop the north wall. That's where they'll come." Sarah moved into position just as a grenade sailed over the wall. "Grenade!" she shouted, diving for cover. The explosion was deafening, but the thick walls absorbed most of the blast. Her ears rang, but she was unhurt. She popped back up, rifle ready. 3 Taliban fighters came through a gap in the wall, their AK-47 spraying on full automatic. Sarah didn't think, just reacted. She fired, dropped the first one. Hawk got the second. The third turned toward her, his weapon swinging around. Time seemed to slow. Sarah saw his finger on the trigger, saw the barrel coming level with her chest. She dove left, felt the heat of bullets passing where she'd been standing, rolled, came up firing. Her rounds caught him center mass. He went down. "Good shooting, Doc," Hawk said, the first hint of approval she'd heard from him. But there was no time to acknowledge it. More attackers were coming. Martinez was on the radio constantly now, giving their position, their status. "Crimson Main, Viper 6 is in heavy contact. 1 wounded, holding position but running low on ammunition. We need that air support now." Viper 6, Apache gunships are 15 minutes out. Hold on. 15 minutes. Sarah checked her ammunition. 2 magazines left. She looked at the others. They were all running low. Frost was bleeding from a graze on his arm, but he kept firing. Martinez had taken shrapnel in his leg but refused to leave his radio. Preacher, despite his wound, had propped himself against a wall and was firing one-handed. Hawk caught Sarah's eye across the compound. For a moment, something passed between them, not words but understanding. They might not make it 15 more minutes. Then Hawk's expression changed. He'd thought of something. "Doc, you any good with a rifle at distance?" "Qualified expert marksman, Chief. Why?" "Because I just saw their commander. Big guy with a red scarf directing the others from that rooftop at Grid." He rattled off coordinates. "If we take him out, they might lose coordination, might buy us the time we need." Sarah looked where he indicated. 400 yards, maybe more. Wind from the east, heat shimmer. A difficult shot made harder by the ongoing firefight. "I can make it," she said, surprised by her own certainty. "Then take it, we'll cover you." Sarah moved to the best vantage point, settling into a stable shooting position. She controlled her breathing, felt her heartbeat slow. The commander was visible in her scope, gesturing to his men, organizing the next assault. She calculated wind, distance, drop, adjusted her aim. The rifle felt steady in her hands like an extension of her will. The world fell away. No more explosions, no more shouting, no more fear. Just her, the rifle, and the target. The shot echoed across the valley, distinct even among the chaos of the firefight. Through her scope, Sarah saw the Taliban commander's red scarf whip backward as he fell from the rooftop. The fighters below looked up in confusion, their coordinated assault faltering. "Target down," Sarah reported, already shifting to find secondary targets. "Outstanding shot, Doc," Martinez called out, a note of amazement in his voice. But Hawk was already thinking tactically. "They're disorganized. Now we press the advantage. Controlled fire on anyone who shows themselves. Make them think we've got more people than we do." The SEAL team opened up with renewed intensity. The Taliban fighters, leaderless and rattled by the loss of their commander, began to pull back. Some retreated to the village. Others broke entirely, running for the hills. "Air support in 5 minutes, Martinez announced. "Apache are inbound, already have visual on the target area." Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief, but kept her rifle ready. She'd learned in training that the most dangerous moments often came when you thought the fight was over. Hawk was moving through the compound, checking on each team member. When he reached Sarah's position, he paused. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" he asked, and for the first time, his tone held genuine respect instead of skepticism. "My father," Sarah said, keeping her eyes on the valley below. "He was Army sniper school cadre, started teaching me when I was 10, said a good soldier needs every skill they can get." Hawk nodded slowly. "Your father taught you well." He hesitated, then added, "I owe you an apology, Doc. I judged you before you had a chance to prove yourself. That was wrong." Sarah met his eyes. "We can talk about it after we get Preacher to a hospital, Chief." A slight smile crossed Hawk's weathered face. "Fair enough. How is he?" "Stable for now, but that bullet needs to come out in a proper OR. And Martinez needs that shrapnel removed from his leg before infection sets in." The distinctive thump of Apache helicopters grew louder. Sarah watched them sweep into the valley, their weapons systems trained on the village below. The remaining Taliban fighters scattered like leaves in a storm. "Viper 6, this is Guardian 2-1, a pilot's voice came through the radio. "We have you visual, area looks hot. What's your status?" Hawk took the handset from Martinez. "Guardian 2-1, we're secure for now. Enemy has broken contact. We have 1 urgent surgical and 1 routine injury for evac. Can you provide overwatch while we extract to the pickup point?" "Solid copy, Viper 6. We'll keep them honest. Medevac bird is 3 minutes behind us. The team began preparing for extraction. Sarah worked on stabilizing both Preacher and Martinez for the helicopter ride, while Frost and Hawk gathered equipment and secured sensitive materials. As they worked, Frost approached Sarah. "Hey Doc, that shot you made. I've been in the teams for 8 years and I've seen maybe 3 people who could have made that under fire. Hawk knows it too. You saved all our lives today." Sarah appreciated the words but stayed focused on her patients. "I was just doing my job, same as all of you." "No," Hawk said, overhearing. He walked over, his expression serious. "You did more than your job. You kept your head when things went sideways. You treated Preacher under fire. You made a shot most qualified snipers wouldn't attempt, and you never once complained or showed fear." He extended his hand. "I was wrong about you. You're not a liability. You're an asset to this team." Sarah shook his hand, feeling the genuine respect in his grip. "Thank you, Chief. That means something." The medevac helicopter touched down in a clearing below their position. The team moved out, with Sarah and Frost carrying Preacher on a makeshift stretcher. The Apache circled overhead, their guns ready to engage any threats. As they loaded into the helicopter, Sarah took one last look at the compound where they'd made their stand. The walls were pocked with bullet holes, scorched from explosions. It didn't look like much, but they'd held it against overwhelming odds. The flight back to Fob Crimson took 20 minutes. Medical personnel were waiting on the landing pad. Sarah gave them a detailed handoff on both patients, her medical training evident in every word. The doctors looked impressed with her battlefield care. After Preacher and Martinez were wheeled away to surgery, Hawk gathered what remained of the team for a quick debrief with the base commander, Colonel Anderson. "Gentlemen, and Lieutenant Chen," the colonel began, nodding at Sarah. "Intelligence has been analyzing what happened out there. That wasn't just a random Taliban patrol you encountered. That was a staging area for a major attack planned against our medical outpost in the valley. The mortar you spotted, plus the weapons cache we found after the Apache secured the area, they were planning to hit our people within the next 48 hours. The weight of that information settled over the team. They hadn't just survived a firefight. They'd prevented an attack that would have killed dozens of coalition personnel and Afghan civilians. "Your actions today saved lives," Colonel Anderson continued. "Chief Hawkins, your decision to hold that position instead of retreating was tactically sound and showed excellent judgment. And Lieutenant Chen," he looked directly at Sarah, "I've been reviewing your performance. Taking down their commander with that long-range shot broke their assault and probably saved your entire team. That's exceptional work for a combat medic's first field operation." Part 5. 3 weeks after the firefight, Sarah sat in the operations tent reviewing supply inventories for an upcoming mission. Preacher had returned to duty just days before, his shoulder healing well thanks to her quick treatment under fire. Martinez was still recovering but would be back soon. The tent flap opened and Hawk entered, followed by a man Sarah didn't recognize, older, with the bearing of someone who'd spent a lifetime in special operations. "Doc, got a minute?" Hawk asked. Sarah stood. "Of course, Chief." "This is Master Chief William Crawford." "SEAL Team 3's Command Master Chief," Hawk said. "He wanted to meet you." Master Chief Crawford extended his hand with a firm grip and assessing eyes. "Lieutenant Chen, I've been reading reports about your actions at that compound. Impressive doesn't begin to cover it." "Thank you, Master Chief. I was fortunate to have excellent teammates." Crawford smiled slightly. "Chief Hawkins said you'd deflect credit. He also said you're the most competent medic he's worked with in 15 years, and considering he once told me he'd never trust a female operator in combat, that's quite the endorsement." Sarah glanced at Hawk, who had the decency to look somewhat embarrassed. "I said a lot of stupid things," Hawk admitted. "Things based on prejudice, not evidence. I thought I knew what made a good operator, but I was measuring people against the wrong standards. Doc here proved that skill, courage, and judgment don't have a gender requirement. Master Chief Crawford nodded. Which brings me to why I'm here. SEAL teams are evolving, Lieutenant. We're recognizing that the best operators come in all forms. We need people who can think under pressure, who can master multiple skill sets, who can earn the respect of their teammates through actions, not words. He paused. We're putting together a new integrated special operations medical unit. Medics who aren't just treating casualties but serving as full team members on high-risk missions. Chief Hawkins recommended you for the program. Sarah felt her heart rate increase. This was the opportunity she dreamed about but never quite believed would come. The training is brutal, Crawford continued. It makes what you've already done look easy, but if you complete it, you'd be one of the first women to serve in this capacity. You'd be helping write the playbook for those who come after you. I'm interested, Master Chief, Sarah said without hesitation. Very interested. Crawford handed her a folder. Read through this. Talk to Chief Hawkins about what it entails. Take 48 hours to decide. But between you and me, Lieutenant, I think you've already proven you have what it takes. After Crawford left, Hawk gestured for Sarah to sit. They settled into chairs at the map table where, weeks before, he dismissed her as a liability. I need to say something, Hawk began, his voice quieter than usual. When you first arrived, I saw someone I thought would get people killed, someone who didn't belong. I didn't see you, I saw my own fears and grief. He looked down at his hands. I lost my best friend because I thought our medic wasn't good enough. I blamed him, but really I blamed myself for not speaking up earlier about my doubts. So when you showed up, I projected all of that onto you. Sarah listened without interrupting. But that firefight, Hawk continued, watching you work under pressure, seeing you make that impossible shot, the way you cared for Preacher like his life was the only thing that mattered. You didn't just prove me wrong. You showed me what I'd become. Bitter, closed-minded, the kind of leader who could miss out on exceptional people because they don't fit some narrow definition I'd created. Chief, Sarah started. Let me finish, Hawk said gently. You're going to go into that program and you're going to excel because that's who you are. And someday, you're going to be in my position, leading a team. When that happens, I want you to remember something. The best leaders are the ones who can admit when they're wrong, who can see past their own biases, and who can recognize excellence in whatever form it arrives. Sarah felt unexpected emotion rising in her throat. Thank you for the recommendation, Chief, and for the apology. Both mean a lot. Hawk stood, then paused at the tent entrance. One more thing, Doc. When I write my after-action report, I'm putting you in for a commendation. Bronze Star with Valor if I have anything to say about it. What you did out there, that was heroic, plain and simple. After he left, Sarah opened the folder Crawford had given her. The program details were indeed intense. Advanced combat training, specialized medical protocols, language instruction, cultural sensitivity training. It would push her to her absolute limits. But as she read, Sarah thought about the journey that had brought her here. The little girl watching her father clean his medals. The young woman fighting to prove herself in every training course. The medic dismissed by a chief who couldn't see past his own pain. And finally, the moment when bullets flew and character revealed itself, when she'd grabbed her rifle and proved that courage and competence couldn't be measured by gender or appearance. Her phone buzzed with a message from Martinez, texted from his hospital bed. Heard about the new program. You better say yes, Doc. We need more like you out here. Similar messages came from Frost and Preacher. Even soldiers from other units she'd treated reached out, encouraging her to take the opportunity. That evening, Sarah walked the perimeter of Fob Crimson, watching the sun set over the Afghan mountains. In the distance, she could see the village they'd protected, lights beginning to glow in windows as families gathered for dinner. Those people would never know how close they'd come to devastation, would never know that 5 American soldiers had stood in a ruined compound and refused to yield. But Sarah knew, and she knew that her father, wherever he was, would be proud. She pulled out her phone and typed a message to Master Chief Crawford. "I'm in. When do I start?" The response came quickly. "Report to Coronado in 2 weeks. Welcome to the future of Special Operations Medicine." Sarah smiled. The chief who dismissed her as a rookie was now her strongest advocate. The team that had doubted her now trusted her with their lives, and the military that had once questioned whether women belonged in combat roles was beginning to recognize that excellence had no gender. She thought about all the young women who would come after her, who would face their own skeptics and doubters. Maybe her story would make their path a little easier. Maybe they'd see that the measure of a soldier wasn't physical size or gender, but the size of their courage, the depth of their commitment, and their willingness to stand firm when everything went wrong. As darkness fell over the base, Sarah returned to her quarters. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new missions, new opportunities to prove that she belonged. But tonight, she could rest knowing she'd already earned something more valuable than any medal or commendation.